in the last few. And thank you to Rob Dreyer, who's gonna be acting as chair for both our meetings today. And Rob, you can take us off.
Morning, everyone. It's an honor to be here as the acting chair today. We'll start with the roll call. Everyone all set with that?
So we will use the online list and we'll send a paper copy around the room as well.
Okay. On to public forum. Is there anyone from the public that would wish to speak? There anyone online?
I do not see anything.
With no one wanting to talk in the public, we'll move on to the adoption of meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve? Wow, is it October, the last meeting minutes?
So moved, Steve Soplak.
For a second,
Larry Burrell, second.
thank you. Any discussion on the minutes before we vote? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. On to item 4, municipal endorsement of study recommendations for MTP inclusion. Rob and Jack.
Yeah, we have a memo here that we shared the general concept of this last month that we were gonna be bringing this to you. Basically, we have numerous studies that we do, quarter studies, studies that include improvements to infrastructure recommendations, and they're endorsed by our towns and our policy board. Those go into our Metropolitan Transportation Plan, which is a plan that spans out over 20 years and looks at long-term improvements in the region. Now, our Metropolitan Transportation Plan has to be fiscally constrained. And so that means that every dollar we put in there kicks out a different dollar. With some of these studies have been, we do not have an official policy for how long these study endorsements keep recommendations in our Metropolitan Transportation Plan. So we're carrying some studies and some pretty significant recommendations, some of which are no longer really pertinent. We're carrying in the Metropolitan Transportation Plan just because we don't have really a mechanism officially to decide how to take them out. So this is a memo detailing a couple options as to how we can, a couple proposals as to a general guideline. I guess I don't want to call it an official policy. It could be if we want, but something that staff could use to determine what recommendations stay in our Metropolitan Transportation Plan, which ones are still valid and which ones are not. So in general, this also assures that this also gives a guideline assuring that your recommendations stay in our Metropolitan Transportation Plan. So if you look at it that way, it's also a kind of a guarantee. So Jack, is the next page have them individually on? Yeah. So they're a little bit bigger here, so you can see the two proposals, what we're looking at. One is to have, if we have an endorsed plan, have the recommendations valid for 10 years. Then to have 2 optional 5-year extensions, where if we get a letter from the first elected official saying those recommendations are still valid, we'll keep it in for 15 years, and then another recommendation to 20 years. Now, we don't want to go beyond 20. Our studies generally are valid for, we do traffic projections for about 20 years on our studies typically. And so, you know, it is possible for a study to be outdated really soon if the recommendation is, you know, constructed, or if other things change traffic or change conditions in the area. However, we want to set up these guidelines. So we have 2 proposals here. Both of them show an automatic 10-year inclusion in our MTP. One has 2 optional 5-year extensions, and the other has we'd ask for if people are going to extend it with each MTP cycle. The MTP cycles are about every 4 years. So they're very similar recommendations. We're not sure how folks feel about the 10 years. It's a nice round number, easy to keep track of. We're not sure how people feel about the max of 20 years. There are some, some caveats we have at the bottom, regarding, if obviously, a municipality could take out a recommendation at any time if we hear word from them, or if staff determines just on our own that, either it's already been instructed or it's definitely not valid anymore for various reasons, but we did want to throw this in front of you and get reaction. And ideally, and we don't have to act on it today, but we did put it as an action item in our transportation committee. If we do agree on one of these proposals or something else, we'd be amenable to act on it. Basically, we are in the midst of updating our MTP, so this is kind of timely with what we want. We'd love to have this policy in place so that we can decide what projects are in our MTP, are not in our MTP, in this next cycle. So, thank you very much, and I don't know if folks have any comments or would like to discuss this. We'd love to discuss it. This is typically, the cost review subcommittee has been a more informal place where we just speak a little more freely, so with that, let's speak freely.
Sure, so 10 years seems perfectly reasonable, nobody's gonna want the current study that they put a lot of energy into to go away before 10 years. But after 10, it's kind of, it's a definitely question spots, it's a good range, I think. You're saying that the MTP goes every 4 years?
Yes,
So wouldn't the proposal one get a little bit harder to deal with, because you gotta keep a separate track of the 5-year extensions? For that reason, I think that the second proposal makes a little more sense. Because when you go to edit, then you look at what's over 10 years, and then you can go gather opinions, and you've got municipal or CROG staff opinions, which I think are good at the bottom. So let's do it.
the advantage of I think the advantage of the first one is you have the even 5, 10, 15, 20, which makes it a bit, in a way, a little easier to track just based on the data of the study. The second one is easier in that every MTP, like this MTP update, we could reach out in bulk to towns that studies are lapsing to see if they get us a letter.
It seems like that would be, the first one might be a little redundant. Right, and you'd be trying to keep track of those separately, and you're already gonna launch an effort for the MTP cycle every 4 years, so why don't you just merge back into that?
I think we're okay with either one, whichever you guys think is, do you guys agree with 20 being the max? Or should it be less than 20? Sometimes there's recommendations that are bigger visions that do merit staying in longer, so that's why we picked 20. I mean, for a tiny intersection, it might not be valid, but for a big idea in your town, it might be.
It's Steve Soplak here. I think 20 years seems to be a long time. I understand, it's a project, but chances are 20 years out, none of the staff who was there at the beginning is still going to be there. They'll have to relearn everything, reread it. And it just seems a long time. And then you're talking the MTPs are good for 4 years. I know it sounds silly, but why don't we say 12? Then that's 3 cycles and call it a day.
Yeah,
We could do why don't we do this? This would be probably the easiest, 10 years, one possible extension for the next MTP cycle, something like that. Cause it won't fall even on 12, cause the study might finish up and the MTP might be a year away, 3 years away, so. We could do.
oh, yeah, you're saying you get anywhere from 0 to 4 years
Right,
on the first time you're on. Okay. Gotcha.
we could do one,
And then 10, and then another one extra. gets you to 18 years, but the problem with going past 20 is. You're. 20 years ago, you projected traffic
Yeah. No, I agree.
and like, now you're at the last year or two of a 20-year projection. Should be projected. It's probably a good idea. Something might have changed in the environment that would change the traffic loads, so, yeah. No more. But the way you're saying it might be 18, right? So you
Yeah, I
got
don't-
4 on the, if you timed it just right, you finished your study, it goes into the M2P. And that sits there for 4 years. Right?
Oh, and we
Right,
get
or-
one extension,
and then-
go to 18.
You know, you might get, yeah, you might get a.
Most of the time it'd be more like 15, yeah.
15, 17, 18 at most, or something like that.
You timed it perfect, yeah,
Yeah, which nobody's gonna try to time it because that's too hard,
yeah.
too big a,
No.
it's too big a cruise ship to try to navigate to a specific point like that.
Okay, so how does everybody feel about one extension for one MTP cycle? 10 years max. Then one extension in an MTP cycle,
Or 12 to 10 years minimum, right?
10 years minimum,
10 automatic and then one extension, you're saying?
right?
1.5
Yeah.
year.
It'd be just for one MTP cycle, I guess, the extension, yeah.
Yeah, but it only means thing by 1 year. Not really. 12 months shoots right by. So,
Is there consensus on that?
I like that better.
Okay, maybe we'll attempt to have an action on that at Transportation Committee.
gotcha.
So no action.
Well, actually, we should make an action for Transportation Committee to act on it, I guess, recommend Transportation Committee to act on it, yeah.
Is there a motion?
What would the motion be?
Good question.
So we would need a motion that, yeah.
You opened up.
Well, it'd be, the motion would be to, accept proposal 2 with standard 10-year MTP inclusion, but with one modification, it would be a single extension of the next MTP site.
Right, proposal 2 with a single extension.
With that extension still requiring CEO.
Yep.
All that is, yeah.
You're still getting buy-in.
Okay.
Prog staff would still have, the same thing at the bottom, I like the fourth bottom.
That's a recommendation.
Is that a motion back?
So let's make a motion to accept, to, move proposal 2 to transportation committee. As written with one modification, that will be one additional MTP cycle extension.
Second, Devin Coppery.
Any discussion?
Friendly amendment, because you said as written, there's 2 different proposals, so I think you just want to have one proposal that say proposal 2 seems more like it, because then after 10 years must reaffirm blah, blah, blah for the one extension, and then include all the language below, the chief elected official and all that other information.
Yeah, I think that was the intent.
That was the intent of the motion. This proposal 2, as written, we could include now we're gonna include the 4 bullet items that would cover both proposals.
Yep.
With
Agreed.
extension into one additional MPP segment. The bullets will get you the chief executive officer has to, the chief elected official has to recommend.
So we have a motion in a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Who cares? Just as a recommendation. Right, to the TC.
Yes, right.
All right, next item on the agenda are lots of scope modification and cost increase requests. First item is a Summers sidewalk improvement project. Gloria?
Okay, thank you. Okay, so, good morning, everybody. This is for Summers sidewalk improvement project. And this, project, which is 5,900 linear feet, was originally awarded through the 2024 solicitation. The town received a commitment to fund letter October 2nd, 2024, and the project has since progressed through the preliminary design phase. The town of Summers is requesting a funding increase of $795,833, 70%, which would raise the total for the project from a little over 1,128,000 to 1,923,833. And this is due to additional needs that were identified during the design process. So in anticipation of this request, the town also did not submit an application for the 2026 SWACSIP solicitation. So during the preliminary design review, the town consultant identified several required additions based on both the town's feedback and conduct feedback. The consultant recommended installing new drainage and curbing, which totaled $182,365. This mitigated the impacts with the proposed sidewalk improvements. So additionally, because of the sidewalk is constructed on a state roadway, which was Route 83, the town determined that enhanced traffic control measures were warranted during the construction phase. So these were included a traffic person and flaggers, which amounted to $231,040. Additionally, the full depth pavement reconstruction along the segments Route 83 and shoulder reconstruction along Field Road and Vision Boulevard, other segments of the sidewalk required additional HMA. And this added $48,195 to the sub-base material. So to incorporate these additions identified during the design process, staff recommends approval of the additional $795,833 of lots of funding for the Summers sidewalk improvements project, and increasing the funding from a little over 1,128,000 to 1,923,833.
Thank you, Satori. Is anyone here from Summers? Oh,
Todd may be
yeah.
on.
I'm
Bob,
on
you
the
wanna add
call,
it?
yeah. I'm here from Summers, just interject, I mean, that exactly what happened. This is a project to connect our summer school and library campus to the center of town. We do not have sidewalks to do that yet. And the kids are already walking there on the side of the road. So it's kind of dangerous the way it is now. We, as Satori has gone over, there's several things that we identified during our design phase that were not included in the original cost estimate. And because it does come on to Route 83, we're going to need flashing beacons. We're also going to need traffic control for constructions. So we are requesting this increase. And this is the first project we've done in Summers in quite some time. So I just asked for consideration.
Just have a question. So the additional traffic control measures, it's not just flaggers and police, it's more than that.
Yeah.
Correct.
There, any other discussion? Any questions? For Todd?
Did the original application include the pavement design?
It did, I think the pavement, and Todd, correct me, I think the pavement design, because it was on Route 83, it was on a state roadway.
Yeah.
There were additional requirements for the pavement.
We all know that.
Yeah,
Yeah, but 9 inches.
Maybe you guys don't know that, now you know that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. We were using our town design. Condot, as you know, is
no.
more stringent.
I'll never fly.
Yeah.
We got caught with that ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now ever since, you're basically building a whole lane worth of
right.
reconstruction,
Correct.
which is not the biggest piece of this. Sure. And then I think traffic and flaggers are probably put in as originally as percentages because of the in the application, they go into
Correct.
percentages, right?
No, it's just, no, they're their own items.
Their own items, try to remember.
M&P is a percentage, but flaggers and police are their own.
These are, I hate to say it, but they're super standard things that we know get hit on applications. So if you guys didn't know before, now you know.
Correct. Like I said, this is the first, lots of, frankly, for me, but the first one the town's done in a long time. Unfortunately, we're learning on the way here. Yeah, there's separate
Right.
line items for police and flaggers in the estimate.
I think a while ago, we had a discussion after, I think it was Suffield that tried to put a sidewalk in on a state road and they hadn't included any drainage. And then they hadn't really done any sort of pavement evaluation, that all the applications started with a lot more pavement design. And then also we were supposed to look at the drainage, and then if you're on a state road, there was like warning lights going off, like, hey, ding, 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 you're on a state road. I mean, I don't want to deny it, but it's been plenty, it's a law. But they also didn't apply to another application, so there is a balance there, I would say.
I will say, I went and looked at the comments from Condot, and some of the comments from Condot were during the application review. Or for the town to consider this during the design process. So they were actually directed.
Oh, they
to-
got pushed that way.
Yeah, so I did go back and review it, so which is what they did, yeah.
Okay.
If they had applied for the full, right, 1.5 initially, would this have been within the 25%? If they're allowed to increase, so if they had included this originally in their application, they probably wouldn't be here.
Right.
But it's actually on the same one.
Yeah, right.
It's actually
It'll be
30%, right? Are we at 30?
Correct, it's 30.
That's 30%.
Yeah.
Right, and the cap was lower during the solicitation too. The cap was a little bit lower.
Well, this one was approved as a sidewalk project or,
Correct,
Sidewalk.
Yeah.
so they were limited down to,
1.2, I believe.
Well,
it
one
was.
point two with it. Oh,
got it.
Yeah,
So that was the other part of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
And like I said, I don't wanna deny anybody money, but the kind of like in your face, obvious issues, hey. I think we all know to look for, hopefully we all know to look for. So if you don't do 70% increases. And with 30, that's a lot of flexibility. So,
good point.
it'll be a good segue to item 6.
Yeah.
okay.
I-
No, you can read ahead.
Yeah,
I concur with
Right.
Doug, but I thought under sidewalk, you can't do drainage. Isn't there one of the options that drainage can't be included?
No,
Uh,
there's no,
All right.
yeah,
sidewalk project.
no, that's what I know of, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of remember that on one of the applications we did years ago, but maybe it's changed. I don't know. Like Doug says, I don't want to deny anybody. It's just I thought there was one of the categories drainage was not part of it.
Steve, I think what you're thinking of is there is lots of application for standalone sidewalks, which may or may not, I think, include drainage. I just applied for the current solicitation for Cedar Street as a standalone sidewalk project, and it does kind of give me a pass on a lot of the road design and all that other stuff because it's just a sidewalk.
Application requires a lot less, attachment material when it's standalone sidewalk.
Yes.
You're correct.
So this is a
Correct.
standalone sidewalk, obviously, then.
It is, yes.
Any further discussion? there a motion?
I'll make a motion for.
Second?
Second, Chris Head.
Oh, Suzanne. Any discussion? The motion? All in favor, state your name by saying aye. Say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Similarly, the Windsor Prospect Hill pavement rehab project. Stephanie's gonna take this one.
She is.
All right.
Good morning. This funding increase is for the Prospect Hill Road pavement rehabilitation project. It is, these 200 feet and in Windsor. This project was originally awarded funding through the 2024 LATSIP solicitation and received its commitment to fund letter in January 2025. Since then, the project has progressed to preliminary design. The town of Windsor is requesting an additional $643,400 in LATSIP funding, which is a 38.5% increase, raising the project total from about 1.67 million to about $2.32 million. This increase is mainly due to the town council's directive to widen the planned concrete sidewalk from 5 feet to 6 feet, which significantly increased construction quantities. This additional sidewalk width added about $331,000 in costs due to quantity increases in concrete, excavation, and driveway work. The town design engineer also recommended new pedestrian safety improvements with the installation of an RRFE and additional signage to increase safety at the Prospect Hill crosswalk near Blackview Drive, costing about $45,000. Other increases such as pavement, drainage structures, and traffic enforcement added another $224,000. These additional costs combined with increases in unit prices and percentage-based items resulted in a total increase of $643,400. To incorporate additions identified during the design process, staff recommends approval of an additional $643,400 of LATSIP funding for the Prospect Hill Road project, increasing funding from $1,671,600 to $2,315,000.
You, Stephanie. Does anyone or Suzanne, would you like to add anything?
I will add that it was the change from a 5-foot sidewalk to a 6-foot sidewalk was driven by our town council. I think you said that, but I want to emphasize that.
Did you have public information? But was there any input from residents on that?
We did have public information, so sidewalks need to be basically approved by council, or if they don't exist currently on a property, unless you're doing a subdivision. And the public was, the biggest outcry was they don't want to plow. There are some farmers on the road, they have 800 feet of sidewalk and that's too much of a burden. So the Department of Public Works will also be plowing the sidewalk.
Oh, no, don't do it.
Yeah.
Oh,
With no time limit
That was a good reaction there.
and perpetuity.
oh, you mean it's gonna be
Like,
forever?
yeah,
Ouch.
I may never do another.
I would think your public works department would appreciate if you never did another sidewalk.
What, area? Is this from the roundabout or the, I think it's a roundabout,
It's a little bit west of the, yeah,
back to
a
Dayton,
little bit west of the roundabout, correct,
yeah,
to Dale.
to Dayton.
It's a really great, speaking informally, it's a great connection, and I really, really want a sidewalk there,
So,
personally. I think it's a good move.
so just, did you guys consider a multi-use side trail that was paved?
Our multi-use trail needs to be 8 feet wide.
But it's paved. And you can also put a larger piece of DPW equipment on it and just plow right through with an F-250 or something.
My understanding is that my take on the 6 foot is that was the reasoning behind that. The change from the 5 to the 6 was the equipment that could be used to clear it.
Really,
Maybe that's why they're doing the skid steer or something.
I guess. You know, so okay.
Any other discussion?
Well, so listen, it's 8% over the limit, which is much better as opposed to 70, and it sounds like you've learned a lesson with your town council about sidewalks and I doubt you'll bring another application. Since you took-
I might, you know.
Yeah, especially, yeah, the transfer of responsibility is kind of insane. It's not part of the purview of this, but it's kind of insane. We need everybody in the community, I think all of us do, to assist Public Works with the sidewalks, the public access sidewalks that are in front of their properties. And people don't like it, but everybody should contribute. So.
It's kind of like trash,
Especially-
no one likes it.
Especially with the DOT, bringing new sidewalks with all their
Like,
projects. I mean, we're seeing hundreds of feet of sidewalk going in on DOT projects all over town.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had a big push when they first started doing that was to make sure they told people they were putting sidewalk and that they were gonna be responsible to shovel the snow. So they're a little more tuned in now to letting people know they're responsible, at least by our ordinance,
right.
which I think is pretty similar for most towns.
And you guys do have ordinance that says that if you're the adjacent owner, that you have to remove snow from the sidewalk? Just town
If you're,
council.
yes,
The
if you're,
town council in this case has overridden.
correct.
So,
Does town council have a
so they're
plan in place to fund the DPW? I mean, it's a mile of sidewalk
absolutely.
on a 12-inch storm. It's gonna take a while.
So the public works will just get extra money to operate and get more equipment so they can
You
operate.
know, that's not how it works.
What? Well, if
There,
you want more services, you have to pay more money. What? I don't understand.
there are some areas nearby that we plow, sidewalks that we plow as well, so there are. It's not completely out of the ordinary, there's a sidewalk that's a rear of a property, and they have a sidewalk in the front. So the property has like 2 frontages, basically. And they plow that as well, cause to the park, to Northwest Park, which is, yeah,
To be honest, Northwest Park is very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice facility.
you've never
And
been, it's a great park.
Yeah, it
it's tremendous, and the variety of features that are in there are just great, the size of it, when you get to the river, everything, I've been
Yeah.
there multiple times. If you
Yeah.
can get more people to get to it,
Right.
regardless of this extra cost for it. I think you should make a move to that, you've got extra housing going in on Dale Road.
A
So
lot
a
of extra help.
lot of extra housing is
Potential.
going in with the combustion engineering, so, right, so is that what it was? Or, no,
There's not one there.
not there, but farther down on,
We have a couple other, possible,
Yeah.
redevelopment
so.
of office buildings.
So that's a major open space for those folks to get to.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Getting them off the street, we're all interested in pedestrian safety at this point, so.
Safety.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate that maybe not everybody's willing to play along or they're forcing small agencies to take care of things beyond what they should be. I'm certainly not opposed to this. We went through 70% for other businesses. 38, close to the line for, for this one, and I can see the need for it, even if we're not looking at the application, it's a need for it.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
On to item 6,
Let me start.
service.
Okay. So now to the good stuff. As you're aware, there have been a number of recent projects that have experienced substantial cost increases when we present them to the committee. And we recognize that developing a detailed cost estimates during the conceptual phase is very challenging. Might be beneficial to our program moving forward to identify and present more detailed cost components early in the process. We're gonna leave it up to the committee, but we're raising this issue with the committee at this time because we want to have further discussion and welcome any thoughts or concerns regarding the recent cost increases. In particular, it might be helpful to discuss whether the cost containment policy, which is on the screen, is being appropriately enforced, whether scope reductions should be requested more frequently, what challenges do municipalities experience with identifying costs right at the onset, and whether a stricter approach to decision making is warranted. So in other words, we're trying to police ourselves, but we're gonna leave it up to the committee. So I'm gonna turn it over to Rob.
You know, one difficult thing as staff is to know if we're being too lenient or too strict, you know, and we don't want to be either. We do discuss cost increases when they come in with John. John is very concerned about the number that come before us. We still do have plenty of funds in LOTSIP. We aim to even be over programmed a bit, but due to projects sometimes falling out of the program or whatnot, they seem to balance out with the increases. So it doesn't seem to be an issue right now with money, but it certainly could be as we move forward and as we try to get more and more over programmed and closer to that line, you know, and so we want to be cognizant of the challenges that you all face, especially when, you know, inevitable cost increases and things of that nature. But we also want to be responsive to the whole group. If the whole group feels that we should, maybe even the way we write our memos, do we have a section in there saying the municipality, you know, what is their response to a scope, you know, reduction? And make the municipality say that it can't be reduced because of this and that, or should there be more detail in there? Is it good how it is? We just want to make sure we're doing our job and being responsive, or even at the application phase, I guess we could go above and beyond. These are just ideas. We could go above and beyond the typical, if we get in a cost estimate that only has a few items in the major categories, maybe we request that some additional items be in the major categories and say that it's not detailed enough. It was the back of the napkin kind of thing. But yet a lot of folks don't want to go into a huge amount of detail in their application when they don't know if they have a project or not. You know, as you know, we got $87 million worth of projects this last round for $45 million worth of projects. A lot of that work is going to be, well, either carry over to the next solicitation or not be, you know, realized. So we want to make sure we're doing our job. We want to get ideas from you as how we can do our job better. And so really want to open it up for discussion. Those are just some ideas of ours. Are we enforcing things appropriately? Should we be going into more detail? Should we be in our explanation? Should we be more strict, more harsh, more, you know, or more lenient, you know? So you all, the problem is if you say more strict, realize you're gonna have a project that's gonna come in front of everybody. Yeah.
So, gonna date myself here. We've been through this, we switched over years ago. Right, remember back in the day, we would have to give presentations to the transportation committee to prove that your design was far enough along. So we didn't have these problems. I remember that was back when we met over with the transit district office over there, talking 20 years ago. But it was basically we were going through the same problem where you get that back of the napkin design. And all of a sudden it was a $600,000 project, and all of a sudden I need $2 million. What's going on? So we had to go, we've already gone through this, right? The wheel keeps spinning, we keep turning on, turning off where we need to, but to me, you get through and you're going through, you gotta make sure you're to your point, Rob, that if we have $45 million worth of projects and we have $87 million programs. You should, if you're putting your project in for funding, whether you get it this year or 2 years from now, you should still continue to work on that design. And build on it. This is my opinion, like, just because you didn't get funding, it shouldn't sit. Right, as part of the process, you should still be working on it. If that project was viable enough to be put in for the last year or this year. You know, it's preliminary, finish it. It's only helping everybody, helping yourself to get through to find design. So it's back to where we were 20 years ago, where we had to go through and do a presentation to prove that our design had met. We were more than preliminary design.
After the project was selected for funding or
Before.
I think the hard part with that is, especially for some of the smaller towns, you know, there isn't as much money to go into engineering, especially for towns that don't have their own engineering department, so. Taxpayers don't want to fund design on something that they don't know they have the award or the commitment to fund on, so. There's only so far that a town is gonna be willing to go to get into that design without having some course of funding.
So, yeah, I hear what you're saying, and don't take this the wrong way, you know, more times, but we hear that every year, that's why we created the smaller town fund. How many projects have the smaller towns submitted that didn't get funded at any point in time? It may not get funded this year, but it's certainly gonna be on the queue for the next program.
That's rural,
It's
right?
Smaller town, right, the rural
So-
funding.
But like you're urban,
Right.
so,
Not qualified.
yeah, and he doesn't have engineering.
But my point is, if it's not viable of a project, you gotta go back and, let them know. Listen. I don't mean to come in the 11th hour here, but it's not my first rodeo. These guys do a great job. I'm not gonna buffalo anybody. But if your project's viable to go forward this year, continue working on it. It's gonna be viable. And it's only helping yourself to keep it moving and it stays fresh, because then when council members roll over, it's already funded, right? It keeps it in a queue. It just doesn't get forgotten about. You have to retrain new council when they come or selected.
Victoria, Peter,
Yes,
I think we need to require people examine drainage. Many projects have come back in and nobody ever looked at the drainage, and the DOT says to them, or somebody says, oh, you gotta do the drainage. So people need to do drainage analysis of some sort when they're preparing an application. And the other thing is the asphalt testing. You know, we went through it with Beta. They don't do test pits. So unless you dig some holes, you don't know the state of the road. So there has to be a little more upfront work with, you know, what Russ is kind of saying is you got to do further examination. You know, I went back and forth with you on this solicitation about that because, you know, Beta did the visual and we got a number to do the digging. You know, it was $9,000 each project to go out and do the test holes. You know, that should be part of the process because you got to eliminate the surprises. And if you don't do the exploration work, there are going to be, you know, more surprises.
it should be able to identify if a project needs drainage. Or, you know, you may not you may not have a report or analysis, but you know, you need to extend a culvert, put a sidewalk over it. So you
I agree with you, but then people have come in, you know, and all of a sudden their metal pipes aren't, you know, they don't examine the drainage in the existing road. You know, I've seen many applications come in with increases, and that's what it is. And part of it is to our friends at DOT, when it gets on a state road, they just want to exploit this pool of money versus their own. But we need to do a little more work up front. I agree with Russ. It doesn't have to be full-blown design, but it has to be more than a napkin, and people need to evaluate the asphalt and the drainage a lot more than we are now.
Don't all applications need a PE signature? Right? No?
they do, but we don't ask the municipalities to do cores and a lot of the data needs, maybe for reconstruction we do,
DOT does.
but we don't ask for all that at the application phase because we wait for the project to be awarded through the policy board. And before it goes to DOT, and then at that time, we'll ask for cores or for whatever other data needs that we need. Because
The PE, reviewing the application. The application needs a PE signature. It needs the first selection or first.
first selected, because, yeah,
It's the, once you're funded, then
Once you're funded and it goes, and it's designed, it needs a PE.
Corey led.
As far as the course, DOT requires more of this stuff. I don't know.
Gonna
Corey will
have to.
probably have.
And they don't go back.
No, no, but that's my, like, getting back to what Peter's saying too, the cores are required.
2015 Caterpillar for 150
Oh, you're looking at graders?
in Marshfield.
Yeah.
That's a side conversation. So. I don't think anybody wants to come back here with over 30%. You have to ask for the money. Nobody wants to. Even at 8% overlift is.
Still
Didn't want, right? So you should, I like that policy that we have because I think it's driving people to try to be more accurate with their estimates. However, I think we could probably assist them because I'm going back maybe 5 or 6 years that there have been project increases. If you summarize those and you go, the real issue here was it was on a state road. And when it was on a state road, it became much more intensive on traffic control. And you summarize those into like guidance for us in preparing and then guidance for your own staff for reviewing. So you should be looking for a pretty big solid percentage, maybe there's a percentage even for traffic control once you get onto a state road. And if you don't see it, when an application comes in, you say, hey, this shouldn't be 5% here. This needs to be like 15, 20, or this isn't $50,000, it's $250,000. And because of that, you're at a cap, and what are you gonna do, and how are you gonna modify your scope to get your application down to a point where it kind of fits within the parameters? Rather than wait for it to become a problem and then come back and say it's 10 to 20, 30, 40% higher than what we originally thought was gonna be. Same thing, drainage is an issue, pavement sign is an issue, and traffic control, especially anything that goes on state road.
One
Those
thing,
are issues. I think if you look back at the old increases, that's what most of them are.
now we were planning, we're planning on having all our projects ranked for selection next and review for selection next. Thing, if we go back and look in more detail, we're gonna need a little more time on
Time. And
So just so everybody knows, we'd be bringing you
Oh,
projects.
I'm not necessarily saying you do this right now.
Okay.
I'm saying, I want the guidance before we apply. I think that there was some
For the next solicitation.
right?
Right.
For summers, if they had read through guidance that said, hey, warning, if it's on a state road, look at this set of details. This is what has to happen up there. These are the standard sections of pavement. They're gonna want 12 feet lane on each one that's gonna be repaved. You're gonna have to put all the markings back, including the curbing, and it's gonna, it's a lot more expensive. Sure, you include that. And then you should look for it to be included, but you didn't ask, you didn't have the guidance, so the submission that you're looking at now, it's gonna be hard to incorporate that. For the next one, for 26, I was, where you're at, or 28,
28.
28, so I can't add 2 years.
That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, it's a
What
good
about-
suggestion.
What about we always keep it to one page, we try to keep it to one page, our memo. For cost increases, do we ask the right questions? Do you guys feel comfortable with that? Should we have additional area that folks have to explain why they can't reduce scope or something like that, or?
Those always seem like they make sense.
Yeah, I think the memo was fine.
The memo is, yeah,
It's
getting to the point.
And we usually vet them beforehand, like we don't, the memo is a result of discussions.
Right.
It's not like just we come up with the memo, we've gone back and forth and, yeah.
We usually ask if you can reduce scope, if you can, we ask all those questions behind the scenes, if you can come up with a concession, if it's a large increase, so we do that work, you might not see it, but it's behind the scenes, so.
Not saying you're not saying work.
No, I'm not,
There's
I just wanna make sure.
That short memo is so easy for them to just type up.
What about including, you know, ranking item in the selection process?
That's what I was
You know,
thinking, maybe we
like,
had.
You know, for completeness of estimate, you assign points to
You get
that,
more points.
and
if
then
have
you
more
guys,
suggestions.
Right.
yeah.
There's
There you
nothing there
go.
right now for it, but if
Right.
we wanted to say you get a point for having geotech done, or get 2 points for having geotech done, get extra points for being a certain, you know, being
Traffic-
over 30%, over
Traffic
60%.
pavement analysis.
That might be enough to sway somebody to allow funding as well. We get more points on our application
Right,
by doing this early.
right.
And it's gonna go back to summers, and you're gonna go like, I
don't have the money.
So I don't want, you're gonna get hurt by it.
They're gonna have to track their scope down to get it into something that would fit within the number of applications they can put in and the dollar value.
But everyone has
We all
an
have
estimate, and the applications can be reviewed, you know, based on the completeness of an estimate
Sure.
during your review
And
process.
one thing, getting back to the scope side, you know, your scoping question. Like to tell some, like, hey, reduce your scope now. The project is the project, right? Especially for your example. It's 5,000 feet long. We're not gonna change it to 4,800. It's just not gonna work. But I agree, I'm not saying you're not doing the right thing. But typically the scope is the scope, right? It's this, as an example, council wants to plow, make it a 6 foot wide sidewalk because DPW's equipment is 6 foot wide. That's the assumption. But the scope, how would you, I'm just thinking out loud, how would you reduce scope?
Sometimes there's like 3 segments of sidewalk,
Yeah.
and you could eliminate one, you know what I mean? We have done reductions in scope.
We have
before.
done that, yeah.
Yeah.
But it has to be a logical terminus, it can't just be, because we wanna reduce it 200 feet, 200 linear feet. Another question, when the cost estimates are submitted during the application phase, sometimes they reach the cap, so then you're in a situation where if you review it and drainage isn't included or other things aren't included, and you've already reached the cap.
You're
A
out.
lot of estimates, 4,990,000.
They're missing X, Y, Z.
I guess like with that, like how long are these roads that are costing, $5 million that don't include drainage?
We intentionally changed the scope of one of ours.
Okay.
Because it was gonna cost him 20, and then we had another one that there was one obvious endpoint. But the other point could be here, or it could be farther down. And when it turned out that we had 2 applications with 5 million, we had to make decisions. We got this one to fit within here, told the other, we had 2 consultants that we hired and paid to get geotechnical traffic counts from whatever sources they could, base that they used, as completed conceptual design as we could have. We paid for that as an investment, knowing that that would give us something that we can try to springboard into funding. Now, if this funding doesn't work, you don't qualify for some good reason, and there are multiple ways to get better points on the scoring. Okay? Traffic counts and impacted areas and all kinds of things. If we don't get funding that way, then we still have a plan, and we might go and try to find a different source. Or we might come back. Up to the next time.
We got about 5 minutes left, so I wanna give people time for a break, but I don't know, a lot of these issues sound like things for the next, prior to the next solicitation, considering extra points for completeness of application. Having us have more guidance as to what people should look out for.
Yep.
And so I don't know if people wanna continue this conversation in another session or just kind of leave it at that for now. But maybe we should break for any thoughts about us breaking right now before TC?
If you guys put together a list of bullet items that were discussed today to bring up, you know, for the next solicitation when we discuss making changes to the guidelines.
Okay. Maybe we'll have a staff report next month with the bulleted list of items to ask if anybody has more and say we'll bring that up before the next solicitation. that could be a way to wrap it up for now.
Sounds good.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Any other business to come before the subcommittee?
No, Peter?
No, so just a note for folks that are online, we will be using the same Zoom link, so if you're already in the room, you can stay in the Zoom room. And we'll reconvene shortly.
Okay, motion to adjourn is in. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned to that. Nobody's see you at, well, over.